It was the most significant day in human history, and Quinn Thompson was late because their alarm didn't go off. Not that it mattered. Nobody would notice Quinn's absence among the sea of self-important diplomats and military officers gathered to welcome Earth into the Galactic Federation. For centuries, we believed we were alone in the universe, boomed President Maxwell from the podium, his voice practiced and theatrical. Quinn slipped into the back row, lab coat slightly rumpled. Today we joined the stars as equals. The crowd erupted in applause. Quinn didn't clap, instead mentally calculating the thrust requirements needed for the new Federation standard antimatter engines. The aliens' tall, purple-skinned beings with 4 arms and voices that could shatter glass nodded approvingly at the president's volume. The Vrexians appreciate strong vocal projection, whispered Dr. Hensley, Quinn's supervisor at NASA's engineering division. They interpret it as a sign of confidence and authority. Quinn nodded, still scribbling equations on a napkin. The Vrexian ambassador spoke next, his voice literally shaking the windows. Earth brings much to the Federation. Your warriors are loud. Your leaders speak with great force. We welcome your strength. More applause. Quinn finished the equation, having solved a cooling problem that had been bothering the engineering team for weeks. 3 hours later, in the chaotic aftermath of the ceremony, when the selection of Earth's first diplomatic envoys to the Federation's central hub was being finalized, a critical clerical error occurred. Ambassador Jackson, examining the list of delegates, pointed at Quinn's name on an entirely different document, a list of engineers who had made significant contributions to adapting Earth technology to Federation standards. This one should come too, Jackson said, misunderstanding the document. We need technical people, right? No one consulted Quinn. No one asked if the quiet engineer wanted to represent humanity in the stars. By the time Quinn learned of the assignment, the paperwork was filed, and the ship was leaving in 48 hours. You'll be fine, Hensley assured, helping Quinn pack. Just stay out of the way of the real diplomats. Fix things when they break. Keep your head down. Quinn nodded, secretly relieved at the prospect of avoiding speeches and handshakes. Space stations had machines. Machines made sense. People, especially loud politicians, didn't. 3 weeks later, as Earth shrank to a pale blue dot in the viewport, Quinn realized nobody had actually checked their credentials. They weren't even the right kind of engineer for this mission. The Galactic Federation central hub resembled a massive metallic sea urchin, with spikes jutting out in all directions, each housing different planetary delegations. It spun lazily in the void, its central sphere glowing with artificial sunlight that served precisely nobody's circadian rhythm correctly. Behold the center of galactic cooperation. Ambassador Jackson's voice echoed painfully off the docking bay walls. The Vrexian greeting party vibrated with approval. Excellent volume, Human Jackson. Your species continues to impress with vocal capabilities. Quinn winced, adjusting their noise-dampening earbuds while the diplomatic procession moved forward. The engineering team, all 3 of them, lagged behind the ambassadors and military attaches who strutted down the corridor like peacocks on parade. You must be the technical staff, said a small green creature with enormous eyes and a voice so soft it was nearly imperceptible. I'm Milo, Hub Operations. You'll need these. It handed them universal translators and security badges. Gently so. Thanks, Quinn muttered, pinning the badge to their lab coat. Milo tilted its head. Fascinating, a quiet human. The reports didn't mention your kind existed. Before Quinn could respond, a thunderous roar echoed through the corridor. A delegation of massive, rhinoceros-like aliens charged past, nearly trampling the engineers. Gornaths, Milo explained calmly. They consider physical space a dominance display. Best to flatten yourself against the wall when they pass. Are all species here so? Aggressive? Quinn asked. Milo's enormous eyes blinked slowly. The Federation formed from the most assertive, expansionist species in the galaxy. Quiet species typically don't discover interstellar travel before louder predators find them. A pause. Your species is unusual. Mostly loud, but with quiet variants like yourself. The Federation finds this diversity confusing. Over the next week, Quinn observed the pattern. Every diplomatic meeting was a cacophony of shouts, roars, and posturing. Human ambassadors, selected for their charisma and commanding presence, adapted quickly, learning to pound tables and deliver ultimatums with the best of them. Meanwhile, Quinn fixed environmental systems, calibrated translator algorithms, and quietly observed. The quieter a human, the more invisible they seemed to become to other species. Twice, Gornath delegates walked directly into Quinn as if they couldn't perceive them at all. During a particularly heated negotiation over Earth's mineral export quotas, Quinn sat in the corner, running simulations on a tablet. Ambassador Jackson was red-faced, shouting to match the Vrexian trade minister's volume. Quinn. Jackson suddenly barked. Tell them how many tons of titanium Earth can produce. Quinn looked up, startled at being acknowledged. Okay, approximately 8 million metric tons annually, but a pathetic output. Bellowed the Vrexian, barely enough to build a small moon base. Quinn tried again, voice barely audible over the sneers. Current production is limited by profit margins, not capacity. With Federation technology, we could increase output tenfold within. See? 10 times more. Jackson interrupted, completely misrepresenting Quinn's point. Earth demands fair compensation for our enormous mineral wealth. The Vrexian delegation erupted in counter-demands. Nobody noticed Quinn sighing and returning to their calculations. On the tablet screen, a simulation showed how Federation mining technology would actually cause catastrophic tectonic instability if implemented as proposed. Later, in the quieter engineering section, Milo found Quinn recalibrating atmospheric scrubbers. Your ambassadors don't listen to you, the green alien observed. Quinn shrugged. They're not supposed to. I'm just here to fix things. Yet you knew the mining proposal was flawed. You could have prevented a potential disaster. I've sent 17 memos. They're marked urgent in the system. Milo's eyes narrowed. No one reads memos in the Federation, Quinn Thompson. Power is taken, not requested. Quinn tightened a bolt with perhaps more force than necessary. I'm not interested in power. I just want things to work correctly. A dangerous philosophy. Milo whispered. The quiet ones always are. The crisis began, as they often do, with a seemingly innocent malfunction. The hub's central communication array stopped working during second shift. Most delegates were at a diplomatic reception, celebrating the anniversary of the Gornath rebellion against some ancient empire nobody remembered. Quinn was eating lunch alone in the engineering mess hall when the alert pinged their tablet. Without ceremony, they grabbed a toolkit and headed to the communication tower. Oh good, a human, said the agitated maintenance supervisor, a spider-like creature named Ziz. Your species supposedly has excellent electronic repair skills. Quinn nodded and began diagnosing the system. The supervisor continued chattering nervously. 16 delegates have already filed complaints. The Vrexians are threatening to withdraw from the trade agreement if communications aren't restored for their scheduled call with their homeworld. The Gornath ambassador broke 3 terminals upon hearing the news. Quinn didn't respond, focused entirely on the circuitry. After 20 minutes of silent work, they discovered the problem, a cascade failure in the quantum entanglement nodes, likely caused by improper harmonization. We need a complete system reset, Quinn explained, voice barely audible over the hum of machinery. Impossible, shouted a new voice. A Vrexian engineer had arrived, flanked by 2 Gornath security officers. A reset would take 6 hours. Ambassador Cathal demands communication restored immediately. Quinn continued working, seemingly oblivious to the interruption. Human, you will acknowledge when spoken to. The Vrexian's voice made dust fall from overhead conduits. Quinn glanced up briefly. There's no alternative. The entanglement matrix is destabilizing. Quick fixes will make it worse. Unacceptable. We will implement Emergency Protocol 6. That won't work, Quinn said, continuing to disassemble a control panel. The Vrexian pushed forward, mandibles clicking in anger. The Federation Technical Council has determined Protocol 6 is appropriate. Quinn simply stepped aside, gesturing to the open panel. Try it. What followed was 4 hours of increasing chaos. The Vrexian implemented Protocol 6, which made things worse. 3 more senior engineers arrived, each louder than the last. A Gornath technician tried forcing the system to reboot through brute computing power, causing 3 secondary systems to fail. Throughout the escalating crisis, Quinn sat quietly in the corner, occasionally making notes, saying nothing unless directly addressed, and even then, speaking so softly that most delegates ignored their input. When the 6th attempt failed catastrophically, plunging half the hub into darkness, the assembled engineers fell into shocked silence. In that moment, Quinn stood, walked to the primary console, and began implementing the complete system reset they had initially recommended. "What are you doing?" hissed Sig-Ziz. "The Technical Council hasn't authorized." "It's this or evacuate the hub," Quinn said simply, fingers flying across the interface. "The quantum field is collapsing. We have approximately 12 minutes. The Vrexian began to object, voice rising to window-rattling levels, when suddenly all eyes turned to the diagnostic screen. Quinn's solution was working. The entanglement matrix was stabilizing. "How did you Ziz begin?" Quinn shrugged. "I observed. Each failed attempt provided more data." 6 hours later, as Quinn was finalizing the restored communication system, Ambassador Jackson stormed in, face flushed with diplomatic alcohol. "Quinn, what the hell happened? I was in the middle of negotiating Earth's defense perimeter when everything went dark. The Gornath ambassador nearly impaled me." Before Quinn could answer, an urgent alert flashed across every screen in the control room. The supervisor's mandibles clicked in alarm. The unidentified vessels approaching the hub. "They're not responding to hails." "Screechers," whispered Milo, who had appeared silently beside Quinn. "They've returned." Bad. The emergency council chamber was pandemonium. Delegates from 36 species shouted over each other while tactical displays showed the approaching Screecher fleet. "We must deploy the defense grid." The Vrexian defense minister's voice physically pushed delegates back in their seats. "Your defense grid failed against them before," countered the Gornath general, slamming his massive fist on the table hard enough to crack it. Ambassador Jackson, to his credit, managed to make himself heard. "Would someone please explain who or what these Screechers are?" A hush fell over the room. The Federation Chancellor, a tall, willowy being with luminescent skin, stood. "The Screechers were encountered 3 cycles ago. They communicate through weaponized sound-modulated sonic frequencies that can disrupt electronic systems, shatter materials, and render most species unconscious or dead. Our first diplomatic exchange ended with the destruction of an entire outpost." Quinn, seated against the wall with the technical staff, listened intently while scrolling through the classified files Milo had quietly transferred to their tablet. The images were disturbing Federation ships torn apart by invisible forces, surveillance footage of delegation members clutching their auditory organs in agony before collapsing. "Our translators couldn't process their language," continued the Chancellor. "Their communication overloaded our systems." "So they're just misunderstood," Jackson suggested, diplomatic to the end. "They understood us perfectly well," rumbled the Gornath general. "They simply didn't care. To them, all other life is background noise to be silenced." As the debate raged on, Quinn studied the technical data from the previous encounter. Something about the sonic weapon signatures seemed odd, almost familiar. The pattern resembled certain quantum harmonics Quinn had been working with earlier. A sudden bang made everyone jump. The Vrexian defense minister had slammed his ceremonial staff for attention. "We have 8 hours before they arrive. The defense committee will convene immediately." As delegates rushed out, Quinn approached Milo. "I need access to the Sonic Research Lab." "Why?" Quinn held up the tablet, showing a spectral analysis. "Because I think I know what the Screechers are saying." 4 hours later, the defense committee was still arguing about evacuation protocols when Quinn and Milo slipped into the chamber unnoticed. They made their way to Ambassador Jackson, who was mid-shout about Earth's limited evacuation capacity. "Ambassador," Quinn said quietly by his elbow. Jackson jumped. "Damn it, Quinn. Don't sneak up on people. I need authorization to modify the hub's communication array." "Now? We're about to be attacked by sonic death aliens." Quinn held out a tablet showing complex waveform analyses. "The Screechers' weapons are actually language, very loud language. Our translation algorithms interpreted it as random noise because they're calibrated for verbal communication within certain parameters." Jackson blinked. "What?" "The Screechers evolved in an environment of constant sonic turbulence. They don't understand that their normal conversation is lethal to other species." The ambassador looked skeptical. "And you figured this out how?" "I'm quiet," Quinn said simply. "I notice patterns in noise. The Federation ships were broadcasting standard greeting protocols that, to the Screechers, sounded like the sonic equivalent of a whisper. In their culture, whispering is the ultimate insult. They thought we were being deliberately disrespectful." Jackson stared. "So their devastating attack was, what, them raising their voice?" "Essentially." The ambassador shook his head. "Even if you're right, and that's a big if, what do you propose?" "I've reconfigured the communication array to translate our messages into their sonic language range, but at a volume they'll interpret as respectful without damaging our systems. I need authorization to broadcast." Jackson looked around at the chaos of arguing delegates. None of their plans were working. With a sigh, he pressed his thumb to Quinn's tablet. "If this gets us all killed, I'm blaming you in the afterlife." "Noted," Quinn replied, already heading for the door. The hub's command center was a scene of frantic activity as Quinn and Milo arrived. Tactical displays showed the Screecher fleet, now just 90 minutes out. The defense systems were online, but previous encounters suggested they would be largely ineffective. "Where have you been?" demanded the Vrexian commander. "All technical staff should be at battle stations." Quinn didn't reply, instead walking directly to the communication console. The technician stationed there looked up in confusion as Quinn showed the authorization. "What are you doing, human?" asked the Chancellor, suddenly noticing the activity. "Attempting communication," Quinn replied, voice barely audible over the alarm klaxons. Communication was attempted before. It failed. The Vrexian's shout physically pushed Quinn back a step. Quinn continued working. "Your previous attempts were equivalent to whispering at them. In their society, that's a deadly insult. What would you know of alien psychology? You're a repair technician." Quinn connected their tablet to the main console. "I'm actually an acoustic engineer specializing in quantum harmonics. I was never supposed to be on this mission. A clerical error." Before anyone could respond to this revelation, Quinn activated the modified communication array. The system hummed as it processed the new protocols. "Broadcasting now," Quinn announced. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the tactical display showed the Screecher fleet slowing its approach. "They've received our transmission," reported a sensor officer. The Chancellor stepped forward. "What exactly did you say to them?" "Good afternoon," Quinn replied, "but at a volume and frequency they consider respectful. I explained that our previous communications were not intentionally disrespectful. Our species simply communicate at different acoustic levels." The display updated. The Screecher fleet had stopped advancing. "They're responding," announced the communications officer, surprise evident in their voice. The translated message appeared on screen. "Your quiet caused misunderstanding. Why send loud beings to speak, then whisper insults?" Quinn typed a response. "Different species, different communication methods. We meant no disrespect." Minutes passed in tense silence. "Then we will send representative to verify truth. Prepare for acoustic dampening, or your species will die when we speak." A collective sigh of relief swept through the command center. The Chancellor turned to Quinn with newfound respect. "You've given us a chance. How did you understand what no one else could?" Quinn's response was characteristically understated. Everyone was too busy shouting to listen to what the silence was telling them. 3 hours later, the hub's largest hangar had been converted into a heavily modified reception area. Acoustic dampening fields hummed at maximum capacity. Most delegates had been evacuated to safety, but a small reception committee remained, including Quinn, Ambassador Jackson, the Chancellor, and a few brave or foolhardy representatives. The Screecher ship docked with surprising gentleness. The airlock cycled, and a tall, crystalline being emerged. It had no obvious sensory organs, its entire translucent body seemingly designed to conduct and produce sound. Before anyone could speak, Quinn stepped forward and activated a specialized translator device. It emitted a series of modulated tones that would have been painful without the dampening field. The crystalline beam vibrated in response, creating sounds that the translator converted. "You are the quiet one who speaks with respect." Quinn nodded. "I am. Welcome to the Federation hub. Your quietness is strange, but your amplification shows wisdom." Equate. What followed was the first productive diplomatic exchange with the Screechers in Federation history. Throughout the negotiations, Quinn served as the primary translator, explaining the acoustic differences between species and facilitating understanding that had previously seemed impossible. When the Screecher representative finally departed, promising peaceful relations provided communication protocols were maintained, the assembled delegates stared at Quinn in amazement. "I don't understand," said the Vrexian commander, for once speaking at a reasonable volume. "How did the quietest human solve what our best diplomats couldn't?" Ambassador Jackson clapped Quinn on the shoulder, "Because sometimes you need to shut up and listen." 3 months later, Quinn Thompson stood before the Federation Council, uncomfortable in their formal uniform. The chamber was filled with delegates from across the galaxy, including an especially modified acoustic chamber, a Screecher representative. The Chancellor's voice echoed through the hall, for exceptional service to the Federation, averting conflict through innovative communication, and establishing peaceful relations with the Screecher harmony. "We award Quinn Thompson of Earth the Order of Diplomatic Excellence." Polite applause followed, along with some species-specific sounds of approval. The Gornath delegation pounded their chest plates. The Vrexians vibrated their mandibles in their version of applause. Quinn accepted the medal with a nod and approached the podium. The assembled delegates leaned forward, expecting a dramatic speech from the now famous human who had saved the hub. Quinn looked at the microphone, then stepped slightly back from it. "Thank you," they said quietly, and returned to their seat. A moment of confused silence followed. Then gradual understanding rippled through the chamber, culminating in thunderous approval. Later, at the reception, Quinn found a quiet corner but was soon joined by Milo and Ambassador Jackson. "The Council has created a new diplomatic advisory position for you," Jackson announced. "Chief Acoustic Relations Officer. Fancy title, private office, significant budget." Quinn looked pained. "I'm an engineer, not a diplomat." "You're both now," said Milo. "The Federation needs quiet observers as much as loud negotiators." Jackson lowered his voice conspiratorially. "Between us, your little adventure has changed how everyone views humans. There's a new saying spreading through diplomatic circles: beware the quiet humans. They think all of us quiet types are secret tactical geniuses." Quinn raised an eyebrow. "That's ridiculous." "Is it? You single-handedly did what committees of experts couldn't." "I just observed a pattern and implemented a solution. It's basic engineering." The ambassador laughed. "And that's exactly why they're terrified. They think all quiet humans are like you, silently analyzing, calculating, solving problems while everyone else is busy making noise." Quinn considered this. "That's not how humans work. We're all different." "They don't know that," Milo pointed out, "and frankly, the mystery serves Earth well in negotiations." A week later, Quinn was on a transport back to Earth, having declined the prestigious new position. The official story was that Earth needed its acoustic expert at home to develop new communication protocols. The truth was simpler. Quinn missed working with machines that didn't require medals and speeches when fixed properly. In the years that followed, Earth's standing in the Federation grew considerably. Diplomatic teams now strategically included both charismatic speakers and quiet technical staff. Other species could never tell which humans were the actual decision-makers and which were just there to fix the environmental controls. From their lab at NASA, Quinn occasionally received classified reports about Federation politics. They always smiled at the final page, which invariably included some version of the new unofficial diplomatic maxim. When humans speak loudly, listen politely. When humans fall silent, watch carefully. And when the quietest human in the room finally speaks, for God's sake, pay attention.